would love to get to play with you. And Instagram, I think we are live here as well. I think it is telling me, nope, now it is telling me we are live. Hey, besties and bosses, happy Tuesday, happy Halloween. I'm wearing my feathers for y'all, and I put on lipstick. I don't know if the lipstick is going to last the whole class, but I tried to bring some Halloween love. I had some costumes. My husband and I were looking at them, and he's like, babe, I just don't think you can be on client calls where people are telling you important, heavy things wearing any of that. So we opted for some feathers, but I'm like, I don't know, I'm like a dark angel or something like that. I've also got Instagram live with us. I thought since we're having a fun Halloween conversation, I keep messing with this tripod. Maybe that's a little bit better for Instagram. I thought we could do the both here. We'll see how that works and see if we can get the comments working on both. If you're live on Instagram or here in the Facebook group, we're going to dig into today some of the scary things entrepreneurs do to push away sales and money. You know, we always do a giveaway. I love nothing more, aside from serving my clients, to get to hang with you, to share this value. I so appreciate when you're live with me and you comment and engage. It also helps me to know what you have questions around. So if you leave me an emoji, say hi on Instagram, we'll make sure we keep track of these before we hop off. If you're live here, leave me some sort of emoji. Today we're giving away a copy of my self-study course, Get Unstuck and Unlock Your Success. It walks through 5 of the most common mindset blocks entrepreneurs have and how to work through those mindset blocks so you can get out of your own way and set yourself up for those consistent reoccurring revenue months. So just say hi and we will get you set up with that. And the other announcement, we are starting to book intensives and spots into the new year. I just started booking some for January and February. However, I am opening up a couple more intensives for the end of 2023. We have one intensive for November still, and I think we still have one for December. So if that's something you've been kind of on the fence about, you've been thinking about, you can book a discovery call or a free call. Make sure we drop a link afterwards and snag one of those. If you're wanting to book more for the new year, we're also starting to book for those spots, and I would love to connect with you and support you. Hey, nice to see you, Tyler. Nice to have you on live. I hope that this will be valuable for you. Yay, it's always fun to see who's live. So let me know if you're here. Let me know, just emoji anything on Instagram or Facebook, and you'll be entered to win that. And then again, I'll drop that link. So let's talk about our topic today. So it's Halloween. We had to get scary. We had to get fun. So we are talking sales and money, but I wanted to talk about some of the scary habits, some of the scary things I see. I've been on this side of the coaching seat with clients for 7.5 years now. I've also obviously been in business myself for 7.5 years, and I've just seen so many interesting things I think we're not always aware of when we're doing them. So we're going to talk about the hair-raising way I see business owners get themselves or set themselves up for disappointment that leaves you missing out on opportunities and grinds future success to a halt. We're going to talk about the frightening habits that set you up for gory sales. I had to go with the Halloween theme here. And the simple shifts you can make that help you avoid missing the business Grim Reaper. And then we're going to talk about the only kind of haunting I want you to experience in your business, and 2 things my clients and I focus on to set ourselves up for consistent reoccurring revenue months, whether that's 10K months or 100K months. I have clients doing both and everywhere in between. So, and again, as we're going through this is to benefit you. So if you have questions, throw them at me. I love getting to hear from y'all. Okay, so let's start with some of the frightening habits. I have 3 here that set you up for grim sales. And I think hopefully these will be just helpful for you. And all of these, as I'm talking through them, are nothing to make anyone feel like you're doing something wrong. All of this, I talk about this on the podcast so much. We always want to have compassionate curiosity. We want to create awareness. It's just really hard for all of us as business owners to change anything if we're not first aware that maybe we're in a pattern, we're in a habit that can be preventing us from making the sales and income we want to. A lot of times, simply the awareness, it's like, oh my gosh, it's that simple, and then we know how to shift it. So as we're talking through these, none of these are to call anyone out, but they are to help create a little bit of that awareness. So the first thing here, and I'm interested to hear what you think about this, but the first one I've seen throughout my 7.5 years, but I've really seen how this one particular in this year has really negatively impacted sales for people, and that's complacency. And I don't think we talk about that a lot. We had a live, I think at the beginning of the year in the Facebook group where we talked about this a little bit, and it's interesting because I don't remember what month it was, but we're now almost in November, right? We're almost a full year later. And it's interesting because some of the people in that live stream reach out to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I totally fell into the complacency trap. And I'll explain what I mean about this in a second. And I also know they, because of that, had some awareness and started to shift things and started to turn things around in their business. I've also since had conversations with people who haven't necessarily made that shift in their business, and it's just been really interesting to see in 11 months, or 10 months, I don't know exactly how many it is, later, especially in a year in our space where we've got an economy that is doing what it's doing. I think it's, it's not as, I don't even want to say it's unhealthy, because I think economic ebbs and flows are very normal and actually really important to help correct the economy in many ways. But we have an economy that maybe isn't as quick and prone to buy as it was maybe a couple of years ago. We have a lot of saturation post-COVID. We have a lot of mistrust in our space. And so it's really interesting to see how the entrepreneurs who have stayed in complacency, and again, I'll explain what I mean by that in a second, how that really has just stacked up over the year. We talk so much about the compound effect when you're taking action, and I think we forget the compound effect is something that serves you when you're taking action to move towards your goals, but the compound effect is also something that can negatively impact you when you're not taking the actions that support and serve your goals. And that's what I'm really seeing at this point in the year. Okay, let's see here. Facebook, I see that there's a comment and it's doing that. Oh, hey Claire, nice to see you. Okay, I can see comments. I get so excited when I can see them. Claire, and it's also fun for me to know that this is actually visible. I'm trying to do the Facebook, Instagram thing. Claire, by the way, and I got to chat earlier this morning, and I got to be on her podcast. She's going to be on my podcast. Those episodes will air in a month or so I'm very excited to share those conversations with you. Very different conversation than what we're chatting about here, but fun to see you, Claire, and I can't wait to share that conversation with everyone. So complacency. So what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is not burn out, not put a lot of pressure on yourself, not come from pushing energy. However, I think what can sometimes happen, especially for business owners who have created a certain amount of success in their business, is to really start to just get a little complacent and start to just get into the autopilot mode. For any of you who are in long-term relationships, or for any of you who are married, I think this is a great way to think about this. You know what it's like when you first meet your person, and it's like both of you are putting on your best face. You're so invested in the relationship. You care so much about getting to know one another. You're making an effort to have special dates. And then when people get married, ideally, right, that continues to happen. If anything, you want to do that more because you want to have a healthy marriage and you want to grow together. However, what can happen sometimes in long-term relationships is that people get complacent, right? They start to take someone for granted. They're like, well, we've already gone through that. I know who that person is. They're always going to be there, right? You can start to take your partner for granted, or stop trying as hard, or stop trying to do new things, or stop going on new dates. What happens in a marriage or in a long-term relationship when that goes on? I mean, you have to imagine if you're the person on the other side of that relationship, maybe you start to feel resentful, maybe you start to feel not cared about, maybe that causes some friction, maybe you grow apart, maybe you start to lose some of the spark. And what keeps, I mean, there's multiple things that keep a relationship going, but one of the things I would say, I've been with my husband now for almost 9 years. We've been married for 2, so I don't know. I don't think I'm a relationship expert, but I think I have some legs to stand on here, or a leg to stand on here, however that saying is. Right? Part of what we've been committed to since we first met each other is not getting complacent, and also not expecting that who we both were 9 years ago and how we were both showing up in the marriage 9 years ago is how we're both going to show up today, right? We want to continue to have dates, to date one another even though we're married. We want to continue to put in that effort. We want to continue to find new ways to grow together. We want to know that both of us are probably not the same person from 9 years ago, so we might need to do different kinds of dates or different activities or different conversations than we did in the past. And that's really what I'm talking about with complacency. And the scary thing here that can happen in our online space is if you start to create success, right, it can be sort of analogous to getting married and starting to take your business for granted, starting to take clients for granted, starting to take your marketing for granted, but also starting to think that what worked for you in business 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago is exactly the same thing that's going to work today. Instead of knowing your business is very much like any relationship. It is evolving, it's growing. And while strategy might, in terms of the practical actions, not change that much, there probably are going to be things that are going to change. You're going to change as a business owner. And so I think this is something that is just really important to be mindful of. And again, not to call anyone out if you're like, shit, I've been kind of complacent. I've been kind of taking my business for granted. I've been a little on autopilot. I've just been kind of rinsing and repeating and phoning shit into my business. Don't make yourself wrong, but I do think this is a really great time of the year to start to look at that. We're 2 months out until 2024. was talking about this with a client, or I was talking about this, yeah, was it a client today? I was talking about this with someone today, earlier today, where I think what we do so often in business is we want to wait until the end of, January or the end of December to start thinking about 2024 goals. And the truth is, what you're doing today, what you're doing for the next 2 months, is really what's going to set you up for your results in 2024. And so if maybe you've been a little complacent, that's okay. How can you use this season, especially the holiday season? I mean, there's so many fun things to play with in your marketing, but what a great time to, instead of really resting on your laurels through the end of the year, to see this as an opportunity to spice things up a little bit and to not just phone things in your business. And I want to be so mindful when I say this, because I think people hear complacency and they think the opposite of this is, or I'll talk about playing full out. And I think people hear that to mean do all of the things all of the time, burn yourself out, work a gazillion hours. And that is not in any way, shape, or form what I'm talking about. I think the difference between complacency and what we're talking about, I think it's really intentionality. I think it is being present. I think it's showing up. I think really intentionality and being willing to not take something for granted and to look at what are the opportunities to meet your business and to meet your audience where they're at today, as opposed to where they were 3 years ago or even 3 months ago. And again, just not take your audience for granted. People often ask me why I market so much. I've been fully booked for 4.5 years. Why am I showing up on this live stream? Why am I showing up here? Why do I offer free calls? Part of the reason for that is I never want to take my business for granted. I never want to take my audience for granted. I never want to take my clients for granted, right? I never want to be complacent. And I also know if I'm not complacent, I never have to get into hustle mode because I'm never feeling behind. We use the marriage example, right? The only time you're in trouble in your marriage is if you take it for granted, right? Then you have to play catch up. Then, I don't know, we have I feel like this is a cheesy rom-com thing, but then what happens? People have to rebuild their marriage and I don't know, go on a retreat with lots of flowers. I don't even know what people do there. So I'm having a horrible example here, but right, the only time that's really something you have to put a lot of effort into is when it's gotten so severed that there's something to repair. Whereas if you don't have your relationship outside of business, if you don't bring complacency there, just like in business, if you don't get complacent, there's never anything you need to repair. And I think it's just a lot easier for you in business with sales and to make money. Let me know if that's making sense, y'all. And again, hey, I see a couple other nice faces here. Say hi for those of you who are joining, and let me know you're live with me, and you'll be entered to win a copy of my self-study course, Get Unstuck, Unlock Your Success. Okay, let's go on to the next one here. And I just have to read through my notes because I have so many. So the next one here is really similar to, or it piggybacks off of complacency. If you signed up for my masterclass, The Path to Consistent 10K Months, we talked about this quite a bit in that masterclass. If you haven't signed up for it, my team made it evergreen for you. I'll make a note, remember, to drop a link for that afterwards. Thank you to my team. They made it so that you can grab instant access. Literally, you sign up, it's on the thank you page there, so you don't have to wait for it. It is, I think, one of, I know it's the masterclass I've gotten the most feedback from, and I've just been getting a lot of great feedback from people for it. So I'll make sure we give access. If you are on Instagram, there's a link in my bio because I don't think I can drop links for y'all here. So there is a link in my bio if you want access to that. But one of the things we talked so much about in the Path to Consistent 10K Months is your customer journey, and kind of on the same lines of complacency, one of the scary things that I see entrepreneurs do that really affects their sales and really affects not just the money in their business, but the consistency, that reoccurring revenue that I really want to encourage my clients to think about, because it's one thing to make, a great big month one time, but that can have all of us feeling that feast or famine in business. And I think that can be really dysregulating in the nervous system. And most of us as entrepreneurs, I know there's this stereotype that entrepreneurs are risky, but most of us, especially in the people service caring industries where we're service driven, we're in the caring, coaches, OBMs, therapists, right? Most of us are also sensitive as humans, and we have nervous systems that are maybe a little more sensitive, and safety is something that's important for all of us. And so reoccurring revenue is something that I think can be very regulating. Not only is it, nice monetarily, but I think it can be very regulating to your nervous system. And that is not a bad thing to want. Do not let whatever stereotype about entrepreneurs tell you need to want to be risky. That is actually false. They've done research on that. just like not a thing at all. That is not what this live stream is about today, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but just don't even buy into that noise or nonsense. So reoccurring revenue, one of the things that really supports you to have reoccurring revenue, aside from an offer that allows for that, is having a client pipeline that you're continuing to fill. And so we have to think about the complacency piece. If we're being really complacent, right, we're probably also not focused on not just our customer journey, but continuing to fill our pipeline. And the reason for this is exactly what I was talking about for your January results. Your results in January are probably based on what you've been doing in October and what you're going to do for the next 2 months, because most of you have a customer journey that is longer than 1 day or even a couple of weeks. I know 7.5 years into business, I've supported clients, 28 clients to 10K months, 15 clients to 6 figures, 3 clients to $1 million, many clients to multiple 6 figures. I've myself made $1.2 million in the last 4.5 years. It would be so easy to think, oh, well, Kim, you can just be complacent. You don't have to worry about your client pipeline. And as soon as someone comes into your world, they hire you. But I know even with that, I have a client and customer journey that's going to be somewhere between 3 to 6 months. Yes, there are people who land in my world and hire me right away, but those are usually the outliers, or they're a referral, or there's just something, they're just so in the right place in their journey that there's something in my content or copy that speaks to them. But most people have between a 3 to 6 month journey through my world before hiring me. And I say that because I think, again, this is just one of the ways we can end up with scary results in business and scary sales and feel like the Grim Reaper is coming in through business, is when we're both being complacent but really not focused on not only the customer journey but continually filling that pipeline. Because if you're continually filling your customer pipeline, your client pipeline, if you know how to do that, and that's something you're doing every day, and you know, let's say your business has a 3-month customer journey, we'll just use that as an example, then you know if today you start filling your client pipeline, then 3 months from now, the end of January, you're going to start making money from that, which means if tomorrow you fill your client pipeline, right, February 1st, you'll see the money from that. So then if 2 weeks from now you're filling your client pipeline, right, then the second week of February, right, you're going to see the results from that. And so if you're always focused on filling your client pipeline, what you're doing is really creating that ease and that safety and that security and a sense of control. I know there's, control's a little bit of an illusion, but I do think when you have a clear strategy, when you're not being complacent, when you're really focused on continuing to fill your pipeline and to nurture that pipeline, that's how you can create so much security in your business. And that is what really leads to that reoccurring revenue instead of those really big peaks and valleys we can so often see. And so that's something I would really offer. If you want to avoid the Grim Reaper coming in through your business, that's something I would be focused on. Always be filling your pipeline and always be moving people through that customer journey. The other one piece here, and then I'll hop over to some of the other pieces we're going to talk about, because y'all know I love to be a little long-winded here. But let me know. Oh, I see a couple other faces. Hey, Selena. Hey, Vanessa. Hey, Amber. Oh, fun faces on here. Say hi if you're hi. I would love to know you're here. We're doing a fun Instagram, Facebook, that's why I'm faced this way, but thought it'd be fun to do both because it's Halloween, because I have feathers on for Halloween. So the last piece here that shows up for me with clients, or that I see a lot through clients in terms of those frightening habits that really you can avoid, and that if you avoid these habits will help you avoid the Grim Reaper in your business, is simply not selling enough. I feel like I'm a broken record about this. If you're a client of mine, you probably want to throw things at me because I say this so often, but it's just worth being a broken record about, because no matter how often I say it, it is still something I see. Pretty much every new client that hires me, this is something we talk about, but clients who've worked with me for years. So often when they're not getting the results they want, when they're not making the money they want, when we take a look at what's going on, when I pull up their Instagram, I'm like, so show me where you've been selling. I just can't see the sales, or it's like I have to go to the end of the third comment in a post to find where they've been selling. So this is just one of those habits, and I think it's a whole nother live stream for us to talk about why you might not be selling enough, what can come up around that, how to sell more consistently. I think that's a different conversation. If y'all want me to do a live around that, just let me know, and I'll bookmark that for a future topic. But I think more today, what I want to highlight is the awareness around this, and for you to check in again, because we're at such a great time of the year. And I keep saying this is a great time of the year. The reason for that is I think this is the time of year where most entrepreneurs decide the business year is done. Don't mind the New York sirens. It is loud out there. And historically, this is also the time of year when most people are spending money. If you're in the service industry and you're serving other entrepreneurs, this is a time of year where for entrepreneurs, it's really great to make investments because you can maximize your tax benefits. Even if you're not serving business owners, this is the time of year when people are Black Friday sales is where some people make the majority of their money, where a lot of people are buying gifts or investments for next year. I think it's such a prime time that people are really in the mindset of making investments, getting gifts for themselves and others, making investments in their business, looking to next year. And it's also the time of year where a lot of entrepreneurs are like, I'm done. I'm like, it's November 1st. I mean, that's tomorrow. But like, it's November 1st. I'm done. Like, I'm just clocking out. And so if instead you're not being complacent, which does not mean burn out. It just means be intentional and show up without phoning things in. But if you're also selling a little bit more, what a really beautiful opportunity for everyone this time of year, which is why I wanted to bring this up. But to really benefit from this time of year and to have the actions you're taking in November and December stack up to serve you in January. So you're really getting those sales and results in January, the end of January into February. So next year can be a fucking killer year for you. We just need to all be creating that awareness and checking in with, are we selling enough? I know, and here's what's interesting. All of these are very similar. When we're talking about selling, there's also a big difference between selling consistently and the energy behind with which you are selling. So I can sell consistently in my group and just have a bunch of sales posts that are scheduled, but I know that's so different. Like, that's almost like the complacent version of selling consistently versus when my energy is really in it, when I am here to show up, I am here to book a client, I am here to serve someone, I am here to make some money. I am here to let you know I've got a fucking great offer that I want to tell you about. Not that you'll have to curse, but there's such a different energy around that. So what I'd invite everyone to look at, if you want to avoid the Grim Reaper in your business, is to check in with how frequently are you selling? Are you selling at all? My guess is, and you have to look at anyone's social media, I guess, well, maybe except for Claire, because I know Claire. And when I see another, I don't know why the comments do this, okay, I can see I have a comment, and I can see that Facebook does not want to show me. Why does it do this, y'all? Oh, here's the Betty Rocker. People need to consume a certain amount of content in order to trust us, bouncing back and forth between creating evergreen assets and regular new creatives too. The more evergreen assets that we can repeat, the easier it is for us over time. Looking back over the last decade, I can see how important it was that we have done both. And I realized this was from 4 minutes ago because my comments don't want to share. It's so true. And I think that's just such a great reminder that what we were talking about was just the complacency piece, and I just love that you're just bringing in, like, this is over a decade, and I think this is also just the customer journey and pipeline piece, just how essential that really is, and the evidence for us. I think everybody in business who's been in business for a long time and has the kind of success you do is so aware of that, and it's just fascinating. I feel like everybody who's new to business somehow thinks that someone who has a lot of success doesn't have to worry about continuing to fill in their pipeline, where it's the complete opposite for anyone who's creating that continual success. I so appreciate the comment. So true. Where was I? So selling consistently, the piece I said, now that I can see comments, I think for everyone here, I outside of the people who have left comments here, because I happen to know them, I would make a guess for the majority of you watching on the replay, for those of you on Instagram, I don't even have to pull up your social media. I'm guessing that you're probably not selling frequently enough, or if you're selling frequently, there's probably a huge opportunity to either be way more clear and specific and direct in how often you're selling, or to take out the complacency and to bring in a little bit more presence with your selling. And to what the Betty Rocker said here, this doesn't mean that you have to be in your business. Evergreen can sell for you. Things you've written in the past can sell for you, but is it going out consistently to your audience? And is it really, really clear to your audience what you have in offer for them and what that next step in the journey is for them? I'm going to drop that masterclass, The Path to Consistent 10K Months, for y'all who didn't catch it, because we have that instant access. So much of that is talking about what you want to have facing forward to bring people through that customer journey, to bring people through your pipeline. So I won't leave you hanging on that. But I think that's just, again, this is how you avoid that grim reaper in your business. And this is something my coach, Lacey Sides, to give her a shout out, something she said to me once that just really, really landed for me, is that there isn't an entrepreneur she looks up to who isn't selling more than her. And she sells a lot, and she has $1 million business. And I think that's just a very helpful frame for everyone to remember, that $1 million plus businesses aren't selling less, they're selling more, because it takes that many touch points. It takes that many times for someone to see your offer. It takes that pipeline, that customer journey, for someone to be ready to buy. And in 2023, going into 2024, it's just so much more true. 5 years ago, 7 years ago, when I started in business, it was just a different game we were playing online. Today in business, the stats we're seeing is people need, 30 to 50 micro touch points. People need far, far more touch points. And then that doesn't have to mean necessarily time length through a customer journey, but touch points in terms of the number of times they're seeing a post from you, seeing an offer from you, seeing your face on social media, seeing you in their inbox. People are just needing more of that because it's more saturated than ever. And this is not a doomsday thing. There's still plenty of people buying, and lots of room for everyone. It also means people trust the online space and buying online more than ever before. But there's just more options for people. And so I think just remembering that and really paying attention to, just do an audit for yourself. If you don't have a business coach, bring this to a business coach if you do. If not, I would say everybody, I would invite you to do an audit. Instagram, this means for you as well. Do an audit and just check in over the last month. How many direct times have you made an offer and invited people into the next step to basically enter your pipeline? This doesn't have to mean selling them into your offer, right? Don't forget that sales could be, I've sold multiple times through this live stream where I told you I'm going to drop my masterclass, right? That can be a sales offer, but do an audit on your business and see how many times have you actually sold? What would it look like to double that number? The number of times you've made an offer in November. I give that challenge to everyone here. All right. I don't think I'm missing comments. I think I figured out how Instagram's going to give them to me. Let us move on here, because otherwise y'all know that I will just talk about the same thing for a really long time. We're going to talk about the hair-raising way I see business owners set themselves up for disappointment that leaves them missing out on opportunities in front of them and grinds future success to a halt. All right, y'all. This is the one no one wants to hear me talk about, but we're going to talk about it anyway because it's important. This one is, it's not knowing your numbers and not understanding how to treat your business like a business. And y'all, I am a creative, I am an intuitive, I am an emotional person. Like, I've got that side of me also, but all of us are running businesses. And if you don't want scary business results, if you don't want to have, the Grim Reaper, I keep saying, because that's apparently the only Halloween scary ghoul I can come up with for this. But if we're not showing up as CEOs and treating our businesses like businesses, and that includes understanding and knowing your numbers, it's just really tough to get the results you want, because this is where I actually think this is what supports mindset as much as mindset work. Y'all know that I am here for the mindset, and I think mindset is 90% of what is going to be behind your results in business. And you can't mindset your way past business foundations, past business principles, past showing up like a CEO, you need the mindset to be able to show up like a CEO, past what a business requires from you, and past just what business statistics are. My clients often get results that are not statistical norms, and yet part of the reason for that is because they know how to treat their business like a business, and they know their numbers, and because they know their numbers, they know the right problems to solve in their business. We talked about this, if y'all listen to the podcast, this week's episode 175, we talked about and dug into one question to actually do less better for more profitability. And one of the things I shared about, go listen to the episode, I'm not giving this away, but one of the things I shared about is we're pulling back from 2 podcast episodes per week to 1 episode per week, and I'm reallocating some time to Instagram. The reason for that is not because I don't like podcasting, or I like Instagram more, or I don't know, I decided podcasting wasn't working, or I got in my head and thought I sucked at podcasting, or I don't know, whatever mindset trash could come up, or whatever random reasons I might want to make that decision. The reason for that is I know the data in my business. I know how much it costs me to create and produce a podcast episode, how much time, and my time is worth money, that takes. And I know what is driving results and conversions in our business. We track that. We have dashboards on the back end. We know the data for that. I know previously when we made the decision to do 2 podcast episodes, what the numbers were on Instagram and how much Instagram was driving in my business, which wasn't a whole lot. And over the time we've run this test, things have changed and we got different numbers because I'm treating my business like a business. I'm showing up like a CEO. I'm looking at the numbers in my business. And so I can use those numbers to make smart decisions, but also I can use those numbers not to make myself wrong. So when I previously maybe didn't get as many signups, let's say for a masterclass from Instagram, I didn't make it think like I sucked at Instagram. It was like, oh, because I know where we're putting our marketing dollars and time and energy, and what converts for me the best is this Facebook group, for example, right? It helps me to make decisions, but also not to get looped around mindset trash that is really unhelpful and that would spin me out and then also have me make really poor decisions. And so this is one of those things. This is another example here. I've been supporting a client with a launch right now, and I think we just recently made a big change up with her launch strategy. I'm trying to think of how to describe this to make sure I'm not disclosing any personal information. And it would be really easy for us to just try a bunch of shit, or to see something that worked for one of my other clients or that worked for one of my peers to blow up their results, and to have her try to do that, or for what we were seeing happening in the launch to totally spin her out. And instead we were able just to really neutrally, because we know her numbers and because we know the numbers that are needed to come through the launch to have the types of conversions and numbers she wants, we know what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be shifted, and what we need to focus on in that launch strategy, as opposed to just doing a bunch of random shit or throwing a bunch of money into, ads can be great, but if that wasn't the solution, or into team doing something, as opposed to really being able to pinpoint and make some pretty big adjustments, quite honestly, that we feel really solid in because they're based in those numbers. So I would say that is a hair-raising way I see entrepreneurs really set themselves up for frustration and sometimes create mindset issues today, but also this is something that will really play out long term. A lot of times when we're not paying attention to these things in business, so much of what we're talking about today, we don't always see the effect today. We so often see the effect of not paying attention to numbers, getting complacent, not filling a client pipeline, making decisions based off of emotion instead of really what your business needs based on numbers as a CEO. These things will often play out a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, sometimes 6 months, a year later. And that's why I think this is such an important conversation for us to have, because if you can have awareness around this today, that also means in reverse, while if you start to make some of these shifts today, it might not mean overnight success in your business tomorrow, but of course that's going to start to compound and start to make shifts for you long term, 1 month down the road, 3 months down the road. So I really, really invite you to start to just create some awareness around that and to see how playing with some of, again, I know for my creatives, I know for my intuitives, I know for my heart-centered folks, sometimes this is the stuff that just makes us want to poke, forks in our eyes, so to say. And we're just ugh, really kind of that is just not what I want to hear. But I think this can be super fun and super creative. Hang with me, I really do. And I also think, again, this is just we keep talking about nervous system regulation and feeling that safety in your business. When you understand what works in your business, when you understand your numbers, and even if it's not you don't have to have crazy dashboards, if you literally just understand where your clients are coming from and how many people you need to have come through a conversion event to get a certain percentage to sign up for whatever it is you're selling, right? If you just know some of those basics in your business, that helps take out so much guesswork, so much stress, so much of what can jack up your nervous system. Some of that can be the best mindset work you'll ever do. And I love the more traditional mindset work. The other piece here that I kind of on the other side of this that feels to me, hey Manisha, I'm just seeing some other, hey Holly, seeing some other fun faces on Instagram. This is fun doing both. Oh, let me see this comment before I go on to the next thing. Betty says it's easy to get swept up in the noise and feel like we should chase every different funnel strategy, or worse, just try to copy what someone else did because it worked so well for them. But we have to find what works for us when, and then track the data. So true. Yeah, I love you for saying that. It's so true. And I'd be curious what your thoughts are on this, but I think, and I just so appreciate you saying this because it just gives me something helpful to share with everyone. I find for most people, the win in your business is not chasing strategies, not doing something else. It's finding that one strategy, that one funnel, and fucking working that and refining it and getting the data and seeing what works and tweaking that one subject line and then tweaking that one thing the next time you launch or tweaking that one ad set, right? It's working within one funnel, one strategy, and just making that so great. That's what I see through my clients who, the clients who have blown up from 0 to 1 million, they're not doing 10 different things. They're just doing 1 to 2 things better and better and better and better. And I think that's the not so secret that's just hard for our brains. Sometimes when we're sitting in the middle of why isn't this working, it just always feels easier to abandon ship and to try something else. Betty says, yes, that's exactly what's behind my biggest successes. I figured that it's the I don't know. I think people think it's boring, but I think it can be exciting, y'all, as well. The results on the other side are exciting, and I think just growth hacking something for everyone. I think that's just maybe a different way for everyone's brain to hear it, but maybe just helpful to hear that evidence as well. With that, I think that's actually a perfect segue into the other piece here that comes up from me that we're talking about the hair-raising ways that I see owners set themselves up for disappointment and has you miss out on opportunities today, but also sets you up for or grinds future success to a halt. What I see, I was talking about this with someone today. I think what is so unfortunate is because we can have such big expectations, especially when we don't know our numbers and know what is even a wildly successful conversion rate based on numbers, because so often we aren't aware of that. I just see how often entrepreneurs will miss how well they are doing early on in business and discount it, and they'll have a first time launch and sell it out to 5 people, a high ticket offer. And instead of being holy shit, I just did that. I created a program, I ran a launch, I had relatively no audience here, relatively little awareness. I had no social proof. I had no viability. We haven't even tested this offer. I have had no one go through this before. I don't have a huge audience. I didn't have a ton of people sign up for my conversion event, and I got 5 people in this program. I am on my track to be a millionaire. I am onto something. This is amazing, right? Instead of seeing that, what I see so often is how easy it is for someone to have their first time launch, to go through something the first time, to get a result of any kind, and to just make it so wrong and to see it as evidence for everything they're doing wrong because they're comparing their today. And this is so cheesy. I know this is what everyone talks about online, y'all, but it's cheesy for a reason because it's true, right? It's just so easy to compare your first time launch, your first year in business, your first conversion event, your first live stream, whatever that is, and those results to someone you're comparing who's been what Betty was just talking about, Betty Rocker was just talking about, who's been launching the same program and working the same funnel for years, and to see their results and to think, well, that just means that in comparison you suck, because the expectations are I should have those results on launch 1, on day 1, on live stream 1, on conversion event 1. And I think this is where the piece we're talking about, we're knowing your numbers, understanding how business works, can actually be such a great perspective shift and such a hopefully a nervous system regulation, but also just a way to shift your mindset around this and to see, oh, no, based on my numbers, I'm actually a unicorn because this shouldn't even happen. And that's something I support my clients with a lot. Some of the reasons my clients have such big launches is because the first time around, right, we really worked on this mindset, and we really worked on I always think the first time you launch, the goal is just to see the launch all the way through, not even the numbers. Any sales you get, I think, are just icing on the cake. But we work so much on that mindset and seeing this is a long game where every launch, or even if you do one-on-one, right? I still launch, I have master classes, every master class. These are all stacking on top of one another. And if you can start to shift that perspective, you will win. As soon as you're in the perspective of whatever results you're getting suck, it is so hard. You are playing such a losing game. It's just a really, really challenging path to go down. And that's when I see people the next month, right? They've got a new offer and they're launching something completely different. And then the next year they're launching a different program. But every time you're doing that, you're starting the game all over again. Right, let me see comments here. Betty Rucker says, not being afraid to have the failures along the way too. Amen to that. Betty Rucker says, for context, it took me 3 years of testing funnels to find one that worked and that we could repeat. Then we have spent years refining it. I so appreciate that. With the failures piece, I will link y'all to my live stream on rejection, because I think that is running at and reframing rejection, I think, is the secret to success. And I just love you so much for saying that. And then I think it's just so helpful to hear. It took 3 years of testing funnels. I've shared with y'all. It took me 3 years to make my first 6-figure year. In that year, similarly, I tested a bunch of different stuff. I tested a bunch of different offers. I tested a bunch of offers I probably had no business testing. I tested a bunch of different marketing strategies, and I had to test a bunch of different things to land on what really worked for me and to then stick with that and to refine that. So I think that's really, really helpful, and I appreciate that nuance, because I think it's easy for us to hear, or just easy to hear the concept of pick and stick and to think that means you pick something and never waver from it. But it's more, if you need to test a couple things and then pick something, stick with it and refine it, and usually pivot within the strategy versus to another strategy. And for most people, I'm like generalizing here because I know everybody who watches this on the replay is going to be in such different businesses, but I find for most people, once you've gotten clear on the strategy, the funnel that works for you, and the core offer you want to sell, for most people, I would say sticking with that until at least 6 figures, if not until the $1 million mark, is until it's like that well oiled to generate those sales before adding on something else that's another large core offer, is usually the win. Obviously, there are exceptions to every rule. I can think of clients in my head who are the exception to that rule, so that doesn't mean everyone, but just in general, for those of you who are wondering. Okay, I'm going to jump onto my last bullet point here. Did I want to say anything else about the other one? No, I think y'all get what I was saying there. I'm going to jump to the last bullet point here because I have 2 pieces I want to share, and I'm going to try to keep us to an hour. I know I always go over, y'all, but I'm going to try because I want to get to my spin class tonight. So the last bullet we're chatting about, and oh, hey, Nancy, it's fun being on Instagram as well. I get to see fun faces I haven't seen in a while. Y'all have to let me know on Instagram if you like watching it here, because then I will keep doing the both. Usually we keep it here, but you'll let me know. Let me know in the comments or shoot me a DM. So the last bullet point we're going to talk about is the only kind of haunting I want you to encounter in your business, and 2 things my client and I focus on to get supernatural 10K to 100K month results. So in terms of haunting, it's Halloween, it's haunting time. Haunting doesn't have to be a bad thing. Haunting can be a bad thing in business, but in your business, the kind of haunting I want for all of you to experience is the haunting of your past leads and your past relationships coming back around to buy from you, coming back around to hire you again, coming back around with a referral. And this is what we were talking about earlier in the conversation. If you can spot those scary entrepreneurial habits of being complacent or not filling your pipeline, and if you're really focused on showing up to nurture, to not take for granted your business marriage, so to say, and to nurture those relationships, and you're showing up to serve and you're showing up to play the long game, this is the best kind of haunting. This is why I have success in business. I think, we have good marketing, we have good sales processes, but I really think part of the reason I have the success I do in business is I just have a lot of haunting, because I've just been planting a lot of seeds, and I've just been filling my pipeline every day for so long that people are just always popping up. And sometimes they're people that I talked to a year ago or 3 months ago. And I think that's just why I have so much ease in a season in our online space that has been, I think it's just been a challenging year for a lot of people, particularly in the coaching space. And so it's not like I have some secret or I'm doing something fancy. I think I'm great at what I do, but I do think a lot of it is what we're talking about here. It's the good kind of haunting. So I would encourage that. It's definitely the Halloween theme, but I would think about that and would just think about how good that can feel when, and just really play that game out in your mind when you're thinking about playing the long game. That is one of the benefits. And I think, what was I going to say in there? I think people underestimate, or I think people overestimate how many sales they will make from today's action, and underestimate how many sales they will make from today's action when they continue to show up day after day making those and taking those sales actions. And so what I mean by that is a little bit of what we were talking about earlier, but I think a lot of my clients have the misconception when we start working together that if they put a post out today, right, like that should be the post that brings in sales, right? Like we showed up to sell today and tomorrow, and like that should bring in the sales. And I think people overestimate that one post or that one sales action, how much that's going to bring through the door, and underestimate, because of that, right, how much that one sales post today and that one sales post tomorrow, how much those stack up and long term will bring you this kind of haunting we're talking about. And so I don't know, when I put out a sales post, it's not like I have 30 people book consultations, even though we have a large Facebook group. And that's not even the goal when I put out, it's one of those micro touch points. But I know I always have consultations coming in. I always have calls booking in. I always have people hiring me. But a lot of that's because they're people who are haunting me from the past. And so this, I think, like that kind of haunting, that's what will make all of y'all the money you want long term. And it's the best kind of haunting in my opinion. Oh, hey, I just, Facebook kept buffering, so I came here. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why Facebook was buffering. Nice to see you on here as well. And also, good reason that we're doing Instagram as well. Nice to see you. Okay, let me then go to the last thing here. But let me know if you have any questions, thoughts, since you're here as well. The last thing we're going to close on here is what I said we're going to talk about, the two things my clients and I focus on for those supernatural 10K and 100K months. I just am loving the cheesy Halloween talk, y'all. So we talked about this a little bit earlier with understanding your numbers and treating your business like a business, but one of the biggest things I am a stickler with my clients about is understanding what gap in their business they need to close, or identifying the right problem to solve and closing the right gap in their business in the right order to generate the results they want. This is why my clients get the results they do. This is why for a relatively small one-on-one business, we have a percentage of people who have made multi-six and $1 million. That is not a statistical norm. I think it's for this reason. This is also the reason I think a lot of people take programs and think the program sucks and claim that the program didn't give them the results. I think most programs are probably actually pretty good. I mean, I don't know. I haven't been in very many programs. I've heard some horror stories this year as well. It's going with the Halloween theme. That being said, I do think a lot of programs there are a lot of great programs out there. Maybe I should frame it that way. But I think it's very easy to sign up for a program that solves the wrong problem at the wrong stage for you in business, or that doesn't help you identify the right gap to close. And so what I mean by this is there's lots of things we need to address in business to bring in consistent leads, to bring in consistent sales, to make consistent money, to be able to show up, to serve and deliver in your business, right? I think we can all agree with that. And let's say what you currently need is to bring in leads in your business, and we know your numbers and we know what's going on, and what you really need is literally to get in front of new people, because there's just not a lot of people in your audience and you sort of saturated that audience. But you're taking a program on how to have better sales conversations. I'm just making this up. That's great. The program might be really great, but if what you need to solve for is getting in front of new people, to actually get people on the phone with you to have a sales conversation, it doesn't matter how amazing that program is on learning how to have sales conversations. It's solving the wrong problem. It's closing the wrong gap for you. It does not mean that won't be valuable, and there won't be a time in your business where you need to know how to do that. But we kind of have to look at what's the order of events that need to happen? What's the right gap to close first and foremost? It's probably, how do we get you in front of a bunch of people? How do we get you more visible? Are we getting on podcasts? Are we running ads? Are we posting in Facebook groups? Is your messaging really clear? Do we have a really clear opt-in or lead magnet? What are we doing to bring those leads through the door, right? There's a whole bunch of gaps to close there first before you would maybe look at how to navigate objections. But what do we do as entrepreneurs? We get squirrel brain and we want to learn it all, and we're just like, well, let me sign up for this program and that program, and look, I've been there too. So again, none of this is shame, y'all. This is all just like, or to shame anyone. This is just how can we create some awareness around this. But I think, again, the reason I think my clients get great results is I'm just such a stickler on this, to the degree that some of them on any given day probably want to throw things at me, because I also, we're not talking about this. This isn't a fucking problem for you. We need to address this part over here, because I know how sneaky the brain is, and I know how many people are scared of failure or scared of success, and how easy it is when the next thing your business needs from you is, for example, to get visible and to bring in leads. If it feels scary to show up really vulnerably, if it feels scary to show up online and take up space, or to do a live stream, or to go post your content in another Facebook group, or to go pitch yourself for a podcast, what's the most convenient way to avoid doing that and to still look like you're being a really great business owner and taking your business seriously? It's to go focus on some other shit that isn't what you need to focus on at this stage in business, right? It's to go take the program and to do all the studying on navigating objections. And I'm just using that as a random example. So this is why sometimes my clients are like, love me, but like are mad at me, because I will lovingly not let you go down that rabbit hole. Similarly, I find for a lot of us, right, sometimes the first thing we need to address is just all the trash that's going up on in your head. If you're super jacked up about something on a call with me, we'll just use the same example. If this is the problem we need to solve in your business currently, and yet there's just a ton of activation around being visible, or you're stuck in comparisonitis, or you're feeling not good enough, or insert one of the myriad things that can come up for all of us as humans when it comes to getting visible, taking up space, marketing, bringing in leads, even booking those sales conversations, right? Probably the first gap we need to close, the first challenge we need to address is probably mindset. And I think that can be so frustrating for us as business owners, because we just want to chew on something that makes us feel like we're moving forward, but it's really hard to do that when we're all wrapped up in our stuff. And so this is what I mean by identifying and solving the right gap in your business. And I really just would invite everyone to really think about, this is what sets you up for success. This is what collapses timelines. This is how you create results. And this is how you continue to move yourself forward. This is like a cheat sheet that, again, I'm always so mindful, because y'all know I do only one-on-one work, and I'm not big on prescribing a one-size-fits-all formula. However, if this is helpful for everyone, the two ways that, if you're like, how do I figure out them in my business? What's the right gap to close? What's the right problem to solve? Really simple way to think about this. First, check in. Are you neutral? You all know I love neutrality. It is my favorite thing as a CEO. I don't even care about positive mindset. I just want y'all to learn how to get to neutral. That is the place to run your business from. And if you're not at neutral, if your nervous system is jacked up, that probably means the first gap to close is mindset, right? It's just really tough to think strategically, to make clear strategic decisions, to take strategic action, to do anything that's going to help you show up like a CEO to move your business forward if you're not at neutral. So if you're not at neutral, that's like the cheat sheet where it's like, probably need to check in with mindset, probably need to chat through something first before I then look at strategy. That doesn't mean your business doesn't need strategy. I think sometimes people know how much I talk about mindset and think that means all we talk about is I don't know, being positive all day long, and we never look at strategy. Strategy is so important, but we just can't even, let's say we're talking about messaging, and we can't refine your messaging if you're so jacked up that hearing feedback around it is going to spin you out and just have you think you suck and nothing's ever going to work, right? That's just a really tough place to come at that from, versus if you're feeling super neutral, it's fun. We can just go in and get really clear on what do we need to adjust here so this really speaks to your people and lands for them. So that's kind of step one. If you're not neutral, probably start with mindset. And then I think this is just, we've been talking about funnels, and funnels just meaning your sales funnel process, or you can think about your customer journey. I think the easiest place then in terms of, so what's the right gap to close? I would just look at, and if you don't know your customer journey, I'm going to drop the link for my masterclass, my free masterclass, The Path to Consistent 10K Months, so you can learn how to set that up for yourself. But take a look at that, and where is the first place in your funnel, in your customer journey, in your sales process? Where's the first place you're having a block, that you're having to stop? That is probably the place to first look at what is the problem here, what's going on, how do we address this? Once you address that, then you move into, okay, what's the next stopping point in this customer journey, in this funnel, where are things getting kicked up? That's the next place you want to look. So it's, people always use the example of a hose, right? If you have a long hose, I don't know why, I feel like that's just the example everyone uses in business. If it's super kinked, because I guess water goes through it, right? We want to like go to where the hose is hooked up to the water source, and we want to, if you just unkink it from the very front, the water's still going to be blocked up if there's multiple kinks. We want to go and unkink it in order from where the water's source is and unblocked, so that way by the time you get that last kink out, all the water can flow through. If you just like do some random kinks in between, the water's still just going to be stuck at the first part of the hose. So that's how I would think about it. And definitely for those of you who get support or have coaches, like this is just a great thing to get support around, and I think why support exists. Brooke says, fun title. Oh, hey Brooke, nice to see you. Thank you. We're trying to do the Halloween. We're trying to do the Halloween thing and actually remember it's a holiday for once. So often I forget like what day of the fucking week it is. I'm just seeing here. Oh, hey Lisa, just fun faces on Instagram. Yay! We might have to do this every week. So that is I have Instagram Brooke as well on here. We're doing the dual here. So that's one thing my clients and I focus on for this supernatural 10K to 100K months. The other thing that I think is so much a theme of what we've been talking about in today's conversation that we really focus on is what we talked about on the podcast this week, actually doing less better, and the less we're doing, really refining and updating that. And then with that, really seeing strategies through all the way to the end. And then exactly what we're talking about, finding the places to do less better and refining and updating that strategy and seeing it through all the way to the end, rinse and repeat. I think this is challenging for entrepreneurs for so many reasons. I think one of the reasons is most of us are just like idea machines, right? We are creative and we're just like big thinkers, and it's like I could do this and I could do that and I could do that. And most of us will start on something and it's really tough to see it through to the end, not because you suck at follow through or I don't know, whatever, not because you are lazy. I think that's more the what I'll hear from people. It's not because you're lazy. I think it's just how many entrepreneurs are wired. Maybe it is a low follow through, but not because you're lazy. So I think just normalizing that, but this is something to be aware of, because literally what Betty Rocker was sharing here in terms of the funnels that have given her the biggest success have been the ones that she's picked and then seen all the way through for, if I'm doing the math right in my head, for like 7 years, right? And I think that can be so challenging. And I think the other thing for us entrepreneurs, right, we like excitement. I think a lot of us drive excitement from business, and I think it can be a tough pill to swallow. And it's like, no, keep doing the same thing again and again. See if you can just find those micro things to shift. This is going to be kind of boring. Just be neutral. Just do this again. Just do this, right? Like most of us, like that's not the idea we had of entrepreneurialism and business. However, that is what tends to yield and create the biggest results. One of my mastermind sisters is coming to mind. She's just had some really great launches recently, and we were having a conversation not too long ago. One of the conversations we were having is that's just because she's just been so willing to just do the same strategy, see it all the way through and rinse and repeat it, and just to let it kind of be boring, but not to get complacent with it, right? Not to phone it in, what we were talking about at the beginning, to really do so intentionally and to do so where it's like, great, what are we going to refine? How can we do less better? What are we going to update? Where is there a kink in the hose? What is the right gap to close? How can we make this even better than it was before? And I think that's the big difference. So it's not just seeing a strategy through. It's not just the marriage example, right? It's not just getting married and it's like, well, I'm just going to stay married to this person because I'm committed to them and like hope things works out. It's how can you see your strategy through, but without being complacent, phoning things in, and continually looking for what are those opportunities to up level. And particularly the longer you're doing something, also just noticing what's shifted and changed in your industry, in the online space, what in your strategy needs to shift with that so it's still really relevant. I know we talk about that so much in this group with messaging, and I think just paying attention to those things in your strategies. Your strategies might stay very similar, but most businesses are going to need to do some sort of updating and refinement there. Or we can think of so many companies. I just always think of Blockbuster, poor Blockbuster, but the companies that just failed to, that got so complacent and that got so stuck in doing the same thing and seeing it through without adding in that element of continuing to look for the right gap to close and where they can update, refine, and be relevant. So I hope that nuance makes sense, because I think otherwise this last piece here could almost sound like the opposite of what we were talking about at the beginning of the live stream, but it's really more of the same, and seeing that yes, this is about seeing things through. Yes, this is about doing a lot of the same things over and over again, but not phoning it in. It's how can you do less better is really the idea there. All right, just seeing if we have any other comments. Otherwise I did pretty good. We got just a little over an hour. I'm pretty proud of myself there because I had a lot I wanted to jam on today. Thank you all for playing Halloween topics with me and diving into our business grim reapers and the scary ghoulish topics that can push away sales and money. It was fun for me. Instagram, thank you for playing as well. A reminder, if you left a comment in either place, you have been entered to win a copy of my self-study course, Get Unstuck and Unlock Your Success. And if you're interested in a coaching intensive, again, we've already started booking for January. We have a couple spots we're opening up, one in November. I think we might have 2 in December. So I will drop a consultation link for those of you. If you're like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, Kim, I offer coaching intensives. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I could use some support getting clear on how to fill my client pipeline, on how to continue to nurture them, on how to sell effectively, on how to identify the right gap to close in my business so that I'm unkinking that hose in a way that actually serves me so that I can make that reoccurring revenue. Or if you just heard me talk about messaging and you're like, oh shit, I've been doing the same thing for a while, but I have no idea if my messaging is up to date and I could use some support with that. Those are all great things for us to work on in a coaching intensive. It's a short container where we just dive in deep together and we knock that out so that you can go off and kick some ass in your business. So I love doing them. They're a lot of fun and a great way for me to connect with some of you. So I'll drop a link for that, and then I'll also drop a link for the Path to Consistent 10K months, the free masterclass instant replay my team made for you. Oh, I just see a question here. Oh, no. I'm not trying to close out. I will totally see your question. Don't even stress. Okay. How to ask for sales often, but in new ways to not sound boring. Sorry if you're trying to close that now. Okay. I think the question is, we've got one question. So y'all, we're going to play with that and then we will wrap up. No stress at all. So I think the question is, how can you ask for sales often without sounding boring? So I'm just trying to think of how I want to phrase this. I think overall, I wouldn't worry too much about being boring. I think we forget in business and with messaging, so much of our job is to repeat and say the same thing over and over again, because that's how people really pick up what we're putting down and what we're about. And what I always remember is, I say this to clients all the time, and probably super annoying. I'm like, what did I say last week on my Instagram post? And I would ask you, like, what did I talk about even on my Instagram stories 2 weeks ago? And most of the time they're like, I don't know. And these are clients who are paying me. They probably couldn't tell me what I posted 4 days ago. And some of them might if it was a post that really spoke to them. But I think we're so aware of what we're putting out when we're selling or with content, and especially when we're repeating certain things. I think we're just so aware because we're writing every promo post. We're writing every piece of content. We're putting out everything. And so we're aware of everything, but we forget that most people are only seeing a fraction of what we put out. We're lucky with the algorithms if people are seeing a lot of what we're putting out. And even if they are, right, they're probably not really going to remember. If they do remember, that means they need to book a call with you or hire you. That means they're really, really interested. So what I would say is I wouldn't worry too much about that. I think that's almost a way that we can get in our own way and overthink things and make it more complicated or harder than it needs to be. Permission to like literally just keep saying the same thing over and over again. And I think with that, right, let's say we're promoting my free masterclass and I'm going to do promos about that, I might talk about the same masterclass, which might sound boring to me. I mean, gosh, I've been talking about this for 2 months, and yet people are still signing up for it and still need to hear about it. And people are still like, I didn't even know you had that masterclass. I might find different nuanced ways to talk about it. So I might write a multiple variations of promo posts for it, for example. I might talk about it on a live stream and bring it up in different ways so that I'm connecting the dots as to why someone might want to sign up for that. So it's not literally the same wording or literally the same promo post. So I don't have like 5 promo posts going out. They're all saying the same thing, but they're all pointing to the same thing, and they're probably all saying the same thing in a different way. And that's okay. That's kind of the point. So I hope that helps. But that's what I would play with. I would play with, don't even worry about being boring, and don't even worry about making things too different. Your job is to say the same message over and over again. Just within that, I would just play with what are some different ways to talk about whatever it is you're offering. Just trying to think if there's anything else I can offer that's helpful there. And I always just think with promos, I'm always just thinking about what are different lenses I can write this promo through, so that's helpful. So we'll just use the path to consistent 10K months as an example. Each of those promos, each time I'm sort of thinking about, like, let me think about one person that this would help. What's a challenge they have? So how can I talk about this in the way that supports that person in their challenge? Or what's a result they really want? How can I write this post or speak to this post, thinking about that person and how that's going to help them? What's something I know people need to know about me to feel safe signing up for them? How can I write one post about that? So I'm thinking about different lenses that I know people need to hear from me. Maybe I'm thinking about a story about myself or a story that I have as a personal example from when I first made my first 10K month, right? So that's just another lens, another way I could talk about the same exact thing, but in a slightly different way. Okay, hope that helped. Hey, Laura, we're just wrapping up. Nice to see you. Y'all, it's fun. It's fun being on both. Okay, I hope that answered your question. If not, DM me, let me know, because I just don't see a comment here, or shoot me a quick comment here. Otherwise, if you don't have a follow-up question, and if you all don't have follow-up questions, then I am going to hop off. So Facebook, I love you. I will see you next week. Bye. And let's see if we ended